Hey everyone, it's Miriam at Miriam's Nature. Today, for my late night pour, yes, it's going on 2 a.m. again, I'm going to do a squeezy pour using the swirl technique developed by Rita Karrip. And I will put a link to her channel in the description box below so that if you want to learn specifics about the technique, you can learn it from the person who created it. Okay. I am going to use these fall colors because lately I've been using a lot of blue and I love blue, but I'm trying to make myself branch out. So I am using these metallics. Every color here is metallic except this sort of creamy color that I mixed up. And this color is going to be my negative space color. Again, I wanted to do something different, so I didn't want to just use white again. So I mixed this color instead. This is actually a very pale gold. It doesn't look that way in the bottle because of the Floetrol kind of gives it a whiter look, and also the bottle itself is sort of a milky color, so it makes it look much whiter than it actually is. This is a rich olive green, which I think is going to be so glorious, and copper, one of my favorite colors. And this is a metallic black. I don't know if it'll show up as metallic on camera, but I've never used it before, and let's see what happens. I am going to mix a 1 ounce squeezy pour. So 1 ounce is 30 milliliters of paint, so that should cover at least 30 square inches of canvas, if not a little bit more. So that will work for what I want to do on my 8x10 canvas. So I am starting out with the pale gold. I've already added a little bit to the bottom of the pour, or the bottom of the bottle. And in order to layer colors in a squeezy pour, I don't want the colors to mix as much as they ordinarily would if I just poured colors from a high distance. I want to try to get the colors as close to the paint as I can. So to that end, I'm going to use a pipette or use a long-necked squeezy bottle to get the paint that I'm adding as close to the paint that's already in the pour as possible. So in order to add my first color, or second color since I've already have a little bit of the gold down in the bottle, I'm introducing the tip of this squeezy bottle into the other one so that when I add paint, it's not coming from a high distance. For the green paint, I don't have that in a squeezy bottle yet, so I'm using a pipette to get it down into this bottle. And then I'm going to add the paint that way. All right, that's going to be the last paint. The colors are not put in this way. It's just when the paint hits the side of the bottle, it'll look as if it's at an angle. But the colors are hopefully nicely layered on top of each other without too much blending. But we'll see. I'm working on an 8x10 canvas, and what I've gone ahead and done was paint the edges of the canvas with my background color. And the reason I'm doing that is so that when I go to tilt, I won't be tilting in order to cover the canvas. I only want to tilt in order to make the pattern be what I want it to be. Tilting just to get coverage on the canvas sometimes isn't the best thing to do because sometimes you have to distort your pretty part just to get coverage. And so I am just making sure that the edges have the color. And in order to just spread this paint here, this paint needs to be pre-medium because otherwise it'll be so thin that you'd be at this for a long time. So, and then also when you go to paint your edges, make sure you feather in the edges like this. You don't want to paint like a stripe, and a stripe all the way around because when your paint dries, if you don't feather in your edges, you might be able to see that line of demarcation from where you originally painted through your painting. And that may be a look you're after, but then if you do that, you really want your lines to be really nice and straight. So since I don't want to have to worry about that kind of thing, I'm feathering in my edges. Alrighty, so it's actually 3 days later. I stopped the tape because I wanted to continue painting in the background. And while I was doing that, it occurred to me that since I made a pour out of metallics, metallics are notorious for needing to be shaken before use because the little mica particles that make the metallic sometimes sink to the bottom. So I thought, well, let's see what happens. So I decided to let the pour sit for 3 days in the bottle and see how viable it would be. So I might be pouring out a bunch of mud. We don't know. We'll see. And a couple other things I wanted to tell you that I've done. I added silicone to the background color, which is something I never do ordinarily. I usually leave my negative space color just paint mix, just the paint and Floetrol and a tad of water if necessary, but no silicone, because silicone is usually in my colors. But this is going to be the reverse, because since I want to do a swirl and I don't necessarily want cells in the swirl, if they show up because of the way the paints interact, that's fine. But I don't want to purposely add cells, so I didn't add silicone to any of the paint in the pour. So I figured if I want any lacy, celly interaction on the periphery of the pour, then I would need to add silicone to at least the background color. So that's what I did. And then the last thing I want to tell you about is this is sort of like a weighted cup. It's a heavy cup. And the reason I have this is to hold the bottle upside down once I flip it. So once I flip it, if I don't pour everything out in one pass, I don't want to turn it back right side up and then set it down. I did that a lot in the first video, the squeezy pour, and it was a miracle that at the end I had separation of color, because given the number of times I flipped the bottle back and forth, that paint really could have turned into gray, brown, or any other less than happy color. So this time around, I'm going to try to keep the bottle upside down once I flipped it. So I will set it down in here if I don't end up using it all in one pass. Let's see what we get. I am flipping the bottle over now, and I'm letting the paint run to the end, and I'm going to start the swirl and see. Okay, lots of green coming out, which was, it may be all green. The whole pour might have turned green. That is not impossible. Now I'm starting to see other colors now, but it's predominantly green. At least that's what it looks like to me right now. Alrighty, that's all I have. I don't even need to really set it upside down because I've emptied out the bottle. I'm going to use this little squeeze bottle just to get paint the background color on the periphery more easily. I'm getting a lot of cells here. I added absolutely no silicone to this paint. Of that I'm certain. So any silicone that we're seeing here, any cells that we're seeing here are being caused literally just by the paint. It's like it reminds me of bark, like tree bark. I was not expecting this at all. I was expecting rings, but it's like this weird, I don't know how to describe this. It's beautiful, whatever it is. I don't know how to describe what's happening. I guess these are cells. right? But, I think I need more color here. Now I'm going to spread the color out a little bit so that I can play into that. I'm going to maybe blow into this. All right, I've let it sit for a while so that I could study it. And I'm not 100% sure what to do with it. It's cool. I don't know what shape I want it to take. I don't know if this is, if I'm done. Well, you know I'm never done. So I've got to do something, but I don't know what I want to do. I'll definitely want to take stuff out to more of the periphery. But with what? I think I'm going to blow. Let's see here. Well, this color is definitely a little muddy, so I don't know how I feel about that. Well, maybe if it sells up pretty, I'll forgive it. And maybe when it dries and it's a shiny metallic, I'll get over it too. But right now, better. I think I need to turn it around. Oh, I like it better this way. What to do, what to do. The green and the brown mixing together. Well, the green and the copper mixing together. Oh, and I've also added black, so that's what's causing this dark color, which I can live with if I can get it to be like this more. So, you know it's going to happen. Some of this has to go. It's too much. Ordinarily, I would capture this paint in a little lid or something, but it's not a color that I'm going to love, so I can sacrifice this. Just tissue paper. Now this squeezy bottle. Here, I'm going to try a fork. Okay, this is pretty, but there's a but. The marbling that's kind of happening in here doesn't match anything else in the painting. So as pretty as it is, it's got to go. It doesn't fit. Yeah, I like the cells better. It matches what's going on elsewhere. I'm trying to decide if a little bit more needs to happen there, and maybe these need to be stretched out a little bit there. And I have no clue what to do with that space. Maybe I should just leave it there. I don't want to blow the brown out. I keep saying brown, but I mean copper. Because I'm starting to see this almost like something that got pulled out of the earth, and that these are sort of roots coming off of it. And so the copper going out wouldn't make sense to me based on what else is happening there. Way better. Okay, good. Stop. I wish I could hear you guys. Like, I need advice. What has to happen over here? Better. Not perfect, but I'll live with it. I'm going to flip it around and see if looking at it from another angle gives me another thought about it. Not really. It's a nice thought. What ended up making sense to me was blowing this area out, making it look like it was starting to fall apart and decay. Because this looks like something that I pulled out of the earth. And I liked this sort of rooty kind of quality that was happening. And this area before had been a little too squared off. I tried a bunch of different tendrils, that didn't work. I blew it out and it still didn't look good enough. So then I decided to just blow in. I didn't like that. So finally, I am liking this. This is what I was after. I didn't know it at the time. And then this area, I'm going to leave alone as a quiet space because kind of going more all over the place would not make sense either. I don't think nature would necessarily do that. I love this thing here. I don't know what to call. I mean, some sort of celling. It's weird negative space celling I'm not familiar with, but it's cool looking. And I dig all these little things here. And there's some pretty cell stuff in here too. And when this dries, I can't wait to see it because metallics dry totally differently than they look wet. So a few quick close-ups before I call it a night with this so that you can see what it looks like wet before seeing the dry version. Alrighty, see you in 2 days. So, this was my first time doing an all metallic pour and definitely first time doing a 3-day-old pour. The beautiful pattern of cell-like walls that developed is unlike anything I've seen before. I'm guessing it's a product of the metallics, but I'll have to experiment more to be more confident in that conclusion. For now, I'm so happy with the result. Let me know what you think. Hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed the video, and tell me if you've done similar pours. I hope you go and paint now or do something to let your creative nature shine. Remember to subscribe and please share with your friends. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye now.